for the party. I'm a member of the NAC, that is the Next Generation Executive Council, and I'm a delegate member of the delegate. For them to have pushed me out, you know, it is much more than we read so many students things about health safety. There's nothing.
All right, the party head is tonight accused of his failure to make the party a national party. He's accused of overseeing a party that has been reduced to a Bungoma affairs party.
If you don't know, let me now tell you, fact, the chairman of the party is from Malindi. The treasury of the party is from Northeastern province. There are so many. In fact, in Kitty, we have 2 members of parliament in Kitty. The deputy leader is Honorable Richard Onyonga from Kisi. Mr. Kamose Vincent from Kisi. They are all over. I'm from Trans-Nzoia myself. I'm the chairman of the party in Trans-Nzoia. We have members of the parties in Montevideo. So don't narrow down. That is fact. We are using them.
All right, Mheshimiwa, you are painting a picture of a leadership that is inclusive. What the party is accused of is that the bulk of the party's politics is within Bungoma and refined to Bungoma. How do you react to that? Isn't it not just a factual statement?
No. I'm telling the members today, we are members of parliament from what? Let me now for you to listen. 1, 2 members of parliament from Kisi region. Today the member of the party is from Karisa. Yeah? I'm sorry, Karisa. Then the chairman of the party comes from Pasa.
And does that justify to show a national inclusive party?
Pardon me?
Does that justify to show an inclusive party?
It's a very inclusive, it's a national party. What is more national than any other party you could think of? Yeah, because we have members all over the country. By the way, the former chairman of the party is from Truganda. They call him the current minister. Yes, he's from Truganda.
All right.
So it's a probably, in fact, if anything, accused the 2 people, Eseli and Omnyinyi, of bringing the party to be a home affair. If you want one way of actually narrowing the party's membership, yeah.
All right, let's move from the Bungoma affair cliche and move to other things. The party head is also accused of fiddling in the 2017 party nominations. How true is this?
Not far from the truth.
When he's accused of giving his favorites the party ticket, that is not true?
It's not true. I can tell you it's not true. We may not have done very well. I can tell you as a party, because we need resources, not as much as in total as other parties. I can tell you, that's why we seats from all over the country. Nomination were done, of course, here and there with some interest. Whether you're talking about you're talking about Jubilee, about anything else, you will find that some interest sometimes shown. But I can tell you, that is a issue that could now accuse the party of being having looked at anybody. Who was looked out, for example? Have they?
All right, finally, Mheshimiwa, before I let you go, let me ask you this. Both the 2 factions, one led by Wamunyunyi, the other led by the senator, claim that they have been endorsed by the NEC. Which NEC has endorsed who? All right, it seems we have lost Mheshimiwa on Skype. That is Ferdinand Nyonyi, Kwanza constituency lawmaker. Let's move on to other stories that are making headlines. National Assembly Majority Leader Aiden Duale has survived the Jubilee Party purge targeting Deputy President William Ruto's allies from parliamentary offices. A Jubilee parliamentary group held at the State House, however, resolved to ask National Assembly Mumias East MP Benjamin Washiali and Cecily Mbarire from their parliamentary leadership positions.
It was a Jubilee Party parliamentary group meeting attended by 212 parliamentarians that the changes were resolved. Mumias East Member of Parliament Benjamin Washiali was replaced by Navaholo counterpart Emmanuel Wangwe, while Cecily Mbarire was axed as the Deputy Whip and replaced by Gembe North Member of Parliament Mauka Maure. Kipipiri Member of Parliament Amos Kimunya will now serve as the Secretary of the Jubilee Coalition Joint Parliamentary Group.
That we have replaced the Majority Whip, the Honorable Benjamin Washiali, with the Honorable Emmanuel Wangwe, Member of Parliament for Navaholo, and we have also replaced, resolved to replace, which I have already communicated to the Speaker, the Honorable Cecily Mbarire, a nominated Member of Parliament.
The parliamentary group meeting was also attended by Deputy President Dr. William Ruto, who is also a Jubilee Coalition's Deputy Party Leader, Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju. President Uhuru Kenyatta says the changes are aimed at restoring sanity at the ruling coalition.
Every member of our coalition and our party has the capacity, the qualification and the experience to become the leader of majority, to become the deputy leader of majority, to become the Majority Whip.
A statement from State House spokesman Kanze Dena has said the parliamentary group meeting also endorsed Justin Muturi to continue serving as the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Cheboy to continue serving as the Deputy Speaker, and Jimmy Angwenyi to continue serving as the Deputy Majority Leader. The meeting came just a week after President Uhuru Kenyatta seized control of the party, a move that has been termed as weeding out Ruto allies from key positions.
The decision on the leadership of the House is a decision of the party leader, of the party leadership. It's not a member's decision. And if you even borrow a leaf from even what's happening in other parties, these are decisions that are made by the party leadership.
Aligned to who? We are Jubilee. We are now Jubilee Coalition with other parties who have come to join us. They cannot join a party that is not democratic.
The House leadership changes have also been communicated to the Speaker of the National Assembly. The Jubilee Party leader, President Uhuru Kenyatta, having effected changes in the National Assembly leadership. Now the ex is headed to departmental committee heads in 2 weeks' time. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47, Parliament Buildings, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, only 18% of last year's KCSE candidates have secured slots in public universities. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says students countrywide will continue to stay home until the COVID-19 curve is flattened. Andrin Kilemi now reports.
And I'm sure you have seen in the Mtandao how children are prepared before they enter the classroom in South Korea, where everything is done. What has happened there? Does anybody know what has happened there? They have reclosed the schools again.
Those were Professor Magoha's sentiments early Tuesday. A clear indication that students and pupils countrywide will have to stay home a little bit longer. This comes a day after President Uhuru Kenyatta ordered the Education Ministry to hasten the talks on resumption of schools.
I am hereby directing that the Ministry of Education fast-tracks and finalizes the ongoing consultations with all stakeholders that will provide us with an appropriate calendar for the gradual resumption of education in the country.
According to the Ministry of Education, only 18% of candidates managed to secure slots in universities as government-sponsored students.
Going by the figures that I have, which will be available to you, out of the 125,000, we are only able to place about 122,000 who secured placements.
Magoha further revealed that a number of students opted to join technical and vocational training centers instead of universities, despite scoring C+ and above in their KCSE exams.
If you go around the marketplace now, you'll find so many people with degrees which they are keeping in the shelf. So some have realized that maybe I better just become a plumber or an electrician. Do you see the buildings all over the city? If you are a grade 1 electrician, by the way, they make more money than myself.
Additionally, Magoha said the placement process considered all students, including those abled differently, as well as those from the marginalized communities.
There are some areas where the ladies are so good that in order to get more men there, we had to do affirmative action for them. So this issue of affirmative action should not just be in your mind to represent affirmative action for ladies. It is now for both sexes.
University heads have been urged to continue enrolling students in the universities, even as most universities continue to offer classes online across the country. Andrine Kilemi for TV47.
Thank you, Andrine Kilemi, for that report. It's 20 minutes past the hour. Time for us to take a short break here on TV47 News Tonight. With me, Abubakar Abdullahi. We'll be back with more news after this break.
meeting, which Ruto skipped. Ruto was in attendance during the National Assembly group meeting. The latest purge of the whipping members allied to the Deputy President has been seen as one aimed at restoring discipline to the party. In his speech during the Madaraka Day celebrations, the Deputy President exuded confidence in the President, especially on matters pertaining to the fight against coronavirus.
Your Excellency, as a people, we are confident that under your leadership, the Kenya government will take the necessary decisions.
The second in command has been accused of, among other things, skipping presidential meetings, including the National Security Council meeting chaired by the President. The Deputy President has remained mum on the recent Senate leadership changes, with his right-hand man changing the tune and supporting President Uhuru Kenyatta's efforts. President Kenyatta has defended his latest moves and said he's not ready to work with anyone who is an impediment to fulfilling his Kenya agenda. The President, terming some political ambitions as one of his greatest impediment in his delivery, a move that was seen as targeted at the Deputy President. Although the President and his Deputy have been insisting that they have been working together and the Jubilee Party is intact, their followers and leaders aligned to each one of them are reading on a different script. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, residents of Uasin Gishu have joyfully welcomed the appointment of Senator Professor Margaret Kamar as Senate Deputy Speaker, terming her as a qualified leader who deserved the position. Take a look.
Tunataka kupokea kiti ambaye Mheshimiwa Kamar amepewa kama Deputy Speaker. Tumekuwa na furaha katika hii Uasin Gishu yetu, kwa sababu tunajua Mheshimiwa Kamar amekuwa outstanding lady, amekuwa mama ambaye ako na busara, amekuwa mheshimiwa ambaye ametusaidia miaka mingi hata akiwa minister ya education. Hajakuwa na partiality bali popote. So sisi kama viongozi wa Eldoret tunataka kubongeza mama na tunabongeza hata wachumbe yote ambaye waliona mama natosha kwa hii kiti. Sisi kama viongozi ya North Rift tumefurahia na tunasema kama mama amepewa kiti sio ile ya kusema ati imekuwa na upendeleo.
So tumeona mama amefaa kwa hiyo kiti. Tangu mama akuwe senator wa Uasin Gishu, amekuwa MP Eldoretist, amekuwa ni mama wa msaada sana. Tumemfurahia kazi yake, hatujawahi kusikia amekorokana na mtu. Kazi yake anafanya kwa ushupavu hali ya juu.
Tunashukuru sana kwa mama mwenzetu kwa kupewa kiti ya deputy. Tuko na furaha sana na tunamwombea Mungu sana ili aweze kuendelea. Kamar, tunakupenda sana pamoja na mwenzako deputy. Tunashukuru sana, shikilia hiyo kiti, tuko pamoja nawe mama. Nani kama mama?
Tunaambia mama Kamar ya kwamba iweze kutufanyia kazi ambayo imeweza kuchakuliwa, iweze kutufanyia kazi ili tuweze kupata nguvu ya kwamba hii kiti ambayo tunapigania iko na udhamini na iko na maana ambayo sisi tutafurahia.
All right, the purge in the ruling Jubilee Party continues. More than just the heads and members of the committee, the leader of the Senate majority now hinting at a purge that will go beyond the two houses in as far as axing those who are against or opposed to the ideas of the president is concerned. Nonetheless, let's bring in our guest for this quick discussion. Daragwa Member of Parliament Jeremiah Kioni joins us live now. Mheshimiwa, if this was a Jubilee house cleaning, is the Jubilee Party house politically clean tonight?
Oh no, far from it.
Why far from it?
What we saw today is that it's just a starting, an indication of things to come. And the head of the party leader, and the president of this republic actually did indicate as much. And I think it is something that we need to look at objectively, in a sense that when you run for an office as the head of state, you learn and you promise Kenyans that I will do X, Y, Z if I am elected into office. And you are duty bound to deliver on your promises. Otherwise, people would term you as a person who failed to deliver on what they promised. And for you to deliver, you need a team. Our constitution has the three arms. We have the executive, the legislature of parliament, and the judiciary. But while we term the judiciary as independent, Parliament is one of the institutions that will always help this president and future presidents in delivering what he promised.
And is this squarely on the idea of helping the president? There are those who say the action is fashioned as though they are rebels against the president.
No. One is that I have no grudge against any member. And I say this because I believe it is a thing that will happen now and should happen even in future, to me and any other person. When you choose not to toe the line, when you choose not to move together with the person you are in team together, or with the person whom you promised to deliver on several issues in the past or when you are campaigning, I think it is only fair that you leave and give room for either him to deliver alone or to deliver with others, or you say that that agenda is not what you ever believed in. Then the decent thing would be to resign. So even as people would want to badmouth this process, it is actually something that it's only that it has now been done in an organized manner. And I want to tell you, you will see this happening every other parliament going forward. But you're also likely to see some more mature way of disagreeing. You agree on a point of principle, and then you say we disagree on this one. You don't go out insulting anybody. You don't need to insult the president to a point where we get like we are in a shouting match. So this is something that we must embrace as a country. The culture of insults must be displaced to every person. Because if it's taken upon by the young people, this country will be the worst off. In many ways.
Mheshimiwa, if one disagrees with the party leader in a liberal democracy, one would assume there are things that can be sorted within the party. It doesn't necessarily have to transmit to axing and de-whipping members.
I agree totally. And there is room to disagree. In fact, the party constitution allows you to disagree. And it is actually naive for you to go there and be in a reasoning team. But you disagree within the party, argue your case out. As you leave out, you have to have agreed on where is it that you want, which direction do you want to take. Of course, we must say that we haven't had the number of meetings that we also should have as a party. And that is one of the weaknesses of the structure of the party, of the management of the party. We need to have more PG meetings. But even in the absence of PG meetings, the last thing that anybody should expect to happen is for you to take it upon yourself to insult the president.
All right, let's talk of the Jubilee house cleaning. We have seen the political house cleaning, at least in the Senate, the National Assembly. There are talks of parastatals as well. Where then, to the topmost, does this cleaning end?
Let me say this. One of the things that happened today is that we have a whip and a new deputy whip. And they have a heavy responsibility, and I'm sure they are already working on it tonight. Because that cleaning comes with some change of leadership in committee meetings, in the committee management of committee, the chairman and the vice chairman, likely even the membership of some committees. And when that is settled out, certainly then you'd want to find out why is it that you are unable, as the president, what is making it difficult for you to deliver on the promises that you made to Kenyans. And as the president said today, when you have elected a person to the office of the president, and he is the one holding the baton, you can't start struggling to snatch the baton from him.
And if someone is to question and ask, how are these members being a stumbling block to the president? I'm asking if someone is to ask, how are these members who have been de-whipped and axed from committees, from house positions, being a stumbling block to the president's idea?
Oh, no. You know, even in the public pronouncements, I think that's not something that we really need to persuade anybody. The public pronouncements are not right. And I'm telling you that perhaps there would have been more room to accommodate people. But I want to tell you that one of the things I personally disagree with is when you are being picked as a leader, to take a microphone and you start insulting in the other leader in public. There are many young people who are going to take up that issue upon themselves are to do likewise. Insult their teachers, eventually insult their parents and insult the country. So one of the things we cannot agree on is don't insult. Don't go out there
and just to
use
be fair,
Mheshimiwa,
just to be fair, we have seen more than one. Just to be fair, we have seen more than one instance where the party leadership, the topmost leadership of the party, has also publicly used faulty language in description of their opposition, haven't we?
And I'm saying that it is not good for a leader to go and insult the leader, and especially insulting the president in a public arena. You can be treated harshly by your boss and the rest. That's another game. But I am even then also, it's not something that we okay. I personally will not be happy to see the president also taking on the same route and doing the same. But he actually said today, he hates being unhappy. He has tried to talk to people for more than a year, and that has continued. But I think the most important thing, Abubakar, is that we are likely to see these changes in the House. And as others have said, I would want to say that the people who allowed you to serve, if they feel like you should not serve again, the other decent thing to do is just to leave. That's not the end of your political career. It could actually grow your political star tomorrow, and especially if you disagreed on a matter of principle. But if you disagreed because you belittled offices and insulted others, that is not likely to help you grow politically.
But Mheshimiwa, tonight, is it not the case? Is it not the case tonight that a section of the Jubilee Party members feel as though they are targeted because of their political stand or whom they support?
And the political, Abubakar, if you want to take another political stand, and especially on the leadership of the party or the country, you'd have to wait for that time to come. And it is not, in fact, I don't think it is a way of being targeted. You are actually being given room to grow or to push, allow your agenda, sell your agenda even better. Because this time you have nobody limiting you. You can now do it more freely without being hindered by the office of the president or the management of parliament. So you are being released to do that other agenda item, that other exercise that you think has more traction than managing the agenda that was promised to Kenyans.
So in your own observation, there is no one being targeted in the ruling Jubilee Party. Is it so?
There is nobody being targeted. It is only dealing with the individuals who seem to have perhaps thought that the promises that were made by the president either are not useful or are not very, he is not keen on, or they are not keen on them now. It is on the individuals who might have identified another leadership that they want to recognize now as opposed to the one that is in office.
Fair enough.
And that's not being targeted. Opinion, it is that you are being allowed to carry on with that. It will be different if you are being targeted because you come from this area. You know there is a given description that can fit you in terms of perhaps the way you are brought, your height, your weight or something like that. But if it is
you say there is
because
no
of the beliefs.
You say there is no one being targeted in the Jubilee House. If this was a political script, listen to some of the names that I'll read to you. Senator Murkomen, MP Washiali, Susan Kihika, among others who have been ousted, de-whipped from their position, who are in the limelight for being a pro-Ruto, at the heart of a Ruto 2022 campaign for this matter. This clearly shows there is one side that seemingly and visibly is receiving the heat, isn't it?
Could you also say that it is one side that has chosen to avoid recognizing that we have a president and a government of the day, a side that have decided to avoid the agendas or the agenda that was promised to the people of Kenya? I mean, it could also be the side that targeted the president. Yeah, to humiliate him.
And is it to the extremes of one?
Yes.
And is it to the extremes of one side belittling the president?
Yeah, that is clear, and I think it is useful for us as a country never to allow that to happen again. Not for this presidency, but all presidencies to come, including the one for 2022, which could easily be even what they are pushing And when that time comes, the person who will occupy the office, be it the deputy president himself, we will want to give him the respect that he deserves in the way that we want the president who is in office today respected and allowed space, because the loser will be the country. The loser will be the Kenyan who will have wasted 5 years of non-development, just politicking. And that is not a good thing for ordinary wananchi. They may not get to understand it that way, but as a leader, you occupy a higher position. You have a higher calling, and you need to live up to that higher calling. And you cannot just swing to the whims of ordinary Kenyans who may not see the bigger picture.
All right, let's move from the Jubilee House cleaning to the referendum bill 2020. A section
of,
yes.
Just before you move from that, know also that there was house cleaning that is already going on within ODM.
Yes.
And even the one for NASA is heavier. In my opinion, is deeper, because this afternoon there was a heavy debate in Parliament on how can they recall their member of Parliament whom they seconded to the PSC. And this is you remember PSC is a constitutional commission. And so you can actually see a cleaning of houses, not just within that party, but you see it within, it's there with NASA, ODM. I know it is also there within Wiper, a little bit quieter. But the leadership of any political party would want a party that is not necessarily whipped to psychophancy, but a party that is engaging on issues objectively and in a logical manner, in a decent.
Which then begs the question: why the cleanups in all these parties? Why the cleanups in all these parties and coalitions as of now? Is it the politics of alignment and realignment ahead of 2022 elections?
I am not sure it is alignment or realignment of 20. What I want is realignment and alignment to deliver on the promises that were made to Kenyans, including what I was articulated today, and it came out during the Madaraka Day presidential speech, on the need to look at the governance structure of this country. And I'm sure that's what reads that into the referendum bill.
Yes, you are quoted by a section of the media to have said this, and I quote, "If there has to be any referendum, then it must be held on the same date with the general election to save money and avoid too much politicking." Given that from the public, palpable and visible arguments by those who are fronting for a referendum is the creation of positions that are not in the current lineup, how then will it be possible not to have a referendum?
One is that I want to own up that statement. It is true that I issued that statement, and that's not the first time. This is a statement that I've been issuing since 2017, after our elections in 2017. And my argument has been that one is that it is not a cheap thing to hold referendums. And two, we must allow ourselves as a country to deliver on development, not just deliver on politicking 24/7. Three is that there is a gap that can be misused by people. If we allow for referendums to be done in between the term of parliament or term of being in office, how many of them can we manage as a country? What would stop every other person who did not win an election seeking for a constitutional amendment through a referendum? That would put us into a spin of politicking throughout. And eventually, the lack of development or slow rate of development will catch up with the country, and people will become dissatisfied and perhaps even get into very violent situation like we are seeing in the US.
All right, but if at the heart of the political...
Allow me to say this so that you can get the point.
Okay.
We had Puguza Mzigo of our court. We now have this government coming up with the BBI. I am told our court has also gone back now with a new referendum or another document suggesting something. There was one that was coming out from the governors the other day. And I think there was even a group of NGOs that were also suggesting another referendum bill, not a constitutional amendment bill. Now, look at those. Those are like 5 of them. How many can we manage in a country? But my thinking is that if then we say that we can only have one during the general election, that will manage the appetite for people desiring to amend our constitution and for people who desire to keep us politicking forever.
Point made. Let me interject you at that point. IEBC chairman says it will cost roughly 12.5 billion shillings to conduct a referendum, the cost aside. But if at the heart of the push for a referendum is to create more seats, expand the executive, have more national leaders, this surely will go through a referendum, isn't it?
Yes, that will have to go through a referendum. Of course, the proponents of that amendment will actually want to put a case that it needs to be done before 2022 elections, so that those positions can be filled by that time. And of course, those who propose that to happen would want to hear the argument. But I want to agree with some section of leadership that believes that a very restrictive structure makes it life and death for those who are looking for political positions. And it's not in the interest, it's not useful for us to fight just because we denied you or there's only one position that can make people feel like they are part of the governance of this country. Remember, why is it necessary to have a constitution? Why is it necessary to have a government? It's so that there is peace. And if as a country we agree that the way to have peace is to have a structure of this nature, I think, and I know there will be time to convince one another.
All right.
We should not so viciously opposed to it. We need to listen to one another and win everybody, like Musalia said, with logic. Let us not force people, but let us win with logic. And I think it is not a bad idea, the proposals that are on the table.
All right, Mheshimiwa Jeremiah Kioni, Nderagwa Member of Parliament, thank you for making time for us tonight on TV47.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, at that point, we are taking another short break. We still have a lot for you, more so in sports. We'll be back after this break. Stay tuned. News Tonight with me, Abu Bakar Abdullahi. Moving on, Kenyan Premier League giant Gor Mahia is reeling from the effects of COVID-19 pandemic that has condemned sporting actions to its knees. As Julius Juma now reports, the club's players are unpaid for the last 5 months.
There is no party at the Kenya Premier League record champions Gor Mahia as financial taps run dry, worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic that has upended the world. Kogalo players are yet to receive a single cent in salaries for the last 5 months. Fingers are now crossed due to the uncertainty surrounding the end of the coronavirus scourge.
Unapata most of us tumeoa, tuko na familia nyumbani. So it affects sana in the term of saizi kusurvive na tu ni hand and mouth. Pesa unapata ni ya kukula mtu memali. You always lipa nyumba for the fact.
Club chairman Ambrose Racher laments over the financial crisis, noting that the Green Army foot soldiers are at the mercy of well-wishers.
So for 4 to 5 months, let me say 5 months now, including May, which is just passed, we haven't paid any of them any salary. But we've been relying on small handouts from well-wishers.
Racher has revealed that he has been forced to talk to the players' landlords to avoid a possible eviction from their rented houses during this difficult time.
I keep writing to their landlords just to understand, and I want to thank those landlords that have already extended a good time for them to be able to pay when we are able to pay.
Stephen Pollack's troops, however, remain optimistic that the current tides will be short-lived and the financial woes buried deep and buried for good.
Si rahisi. It's been very difficult. But tuna hope for better things ahead. Kwa sababu at the moment, things are tight.
So si tuna hope tu na tunaomba kila wakati. Hii situation iishe, vitu zirudi normal. But kama mambo ya kutolipwa, hii ni crisis iko all over the world. So hii hatuwezi sema eti ni Gor Mahia ama ni entity nyingine, but inaweza kuwa tu ni all over the world na kila mtu tu anaomba tu iishe.
Gor Mahia players each received a 10,000 Kenyan shillings token from the government through the Ministry of Sports to cushion them against the hard-hitting effects of COVID-19. Reporting for TV47, I'm Julius Juma.
Elsewhere, more than 3,000 people living with disabilities from North Rift will benefit from 200 million shillings set to cushion them from the effects of COVID-19. But as Calvin Chitwa reports, people with disabilities in the region want the council to work with their association to ensure that all genuine needy persons benefit from the fund.
North Rift National Council for People with Disabilities Coordinator Leonard Wafula says 100 people from each constituency will benefit from the fund.
We have we have given this money to those who had arrears, and we have a balance of 200 million. So right now we are recruiting other persons with disability who are equally affected by this COVID. Now,
speaking while launching the fund in Eldoret, Wafula said all 6 counties from the region, which includes Uasin Gishu, Nandi, Baringo, Turkana, Trans Nzoia, West Pokot, and Elgeyo Marakwet, will have a share of the kitty. Majority of beneficiaries are people with disabilities who have been affected as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. Each beneficiary will get 2,000 shillings every month. Pius Asuke, the chairman of disabled people working as shoe shiners in Eldoret town, has asked the council to work with his association to ensure that all genuine need cases benefit from the fund.
Baadhi yao wengine wanapata hiyo pesa na wengine bado hawapati hiyo pesa. Sasa tunajiuliza kama ilikuwa imeletewa kuhusu COVID-19 ya kusaidia watu wa disabled pamoja na watu ambao hawajiwezi kabisa, kwa nini waweze kutenga wengine kando na wengine huwa wanapata hiyo pesa? So tunataka tuulize kwamba kama imeletwa iwe imefika hata kwa Uasin Gishu County, wasibague mtu yote kupata hii pesa kwa sababu ni ya usaidizi kwa wale ambao hawana.
His sentiments were echoed by Martin Omondi together with Martha Wanjiko, both traders with disabilities in Eldoret town.
Kama hizo zikiweza kupatikana, wakaweze kuhakikisha kwamba watu wamepata ripoti kwa njia kwa haraka sana.
Hizo pesa ambazo zimetoka siwezi kufuatiliwa na wazee wa mitaa vizuri na mtu kama MCA.
The traders want the council to work with local administrators to identify genuine beneficiaries. The fund is part of 500 million shillings set aside by the government to cushion disabled people countrywide. Calvin Chitwa, TV47, Uasin Gishu County.
To international news now, and as the world continues to mourn the death of George Floyd, an armed black man who died in police custody, different countries have expressed concern over the use of excessive force in combating protesters, with the European Union describing the death as abuse of power. Lexi Kimani with the details.
Over the weekend, banners reading, "Please, I can't breathe and my neck hurts," was seen trailing airplanes above Detroit and New York City. Words that have become very popular slogans of protesters as hundreds of Americans and the world mourn George Floyd. High Representative of the European Union Joseph Borrell called the death of George Floyd as an abuse of power and asked all societies to remain vigilant against use of excessive force. However, U.S. President Donald Trump has responded to the unrest in many U.S. states, threatening to use troops to contain the protests.
I will fight to protect you. I am your president of law and order. If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them.
Trump's speech has been widely criticized by U.S. citizens and his biggest rival, Joe Biden, who claims Trump misused troops to chase away protesters just to pose for a photo at St. John's Church in Washington, D.C.
Peaceful protesters dispersed in order for a president from the doorstep of the people's house, the White House, using tear gas and flash grenades in order to stage a photo op in one of the most historic churches in the country, or at least in Washington, D.C.
Independent medical examiners hired by Floyd's family said on Tuesday that the cause of the death was asphyxiation due to compression of the neck.
George died because he needed a breath. The medics, based on the EMT report that we have in our possession, performed post checks several times, finding none, and delivered one shock by their monitor. But George's condition did not change.
Floyd's family has announced that the memorial and celebration of life services will be held on Monday and Tuesday next week.
With me, Abu Bakr Abdullahi, on behalf of the entire team that made this production possible. Bye for now, but enjoy the rest of our programs.
The coronavirus is spreading rapidly across the world, and currently there is no cure or vaccine against it. It spreads through tiny droplets when infected people speak, cough, or sneeze. These droplets can land on surface